Hello and welcome to the i3 lecture series hosted by the Masters in Digital Photography here at School of Visual Arts. I'm Julie Graham. Our guest tonight is multi-talented artist Amon Focus. I was excited to learn a few years ago about his New York SED project and the podcast through which he documents the personal and professional stories of influential individuals around the country, particularly those residing in New York, and generously including foreigners like myself and Jeanette Beckman, who introduced us, who's here tonight. Amon is a skilled researcher and interviewer alongside his own artwork and his cultural curation, and I'm looking forward tonight to hearing more about the connections that brought him here. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Literally, when I got your email, I was like, what? And then I saw like how many speakers that this has been going on for 12 years. So to be in this pool of other talented individuals, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Marco, because I've been bugging them all week. Like, can I just come through? I just want to try this and try that. So let's go. So I started New York SED 10 years ago. It came out of a failed project. Like, I was trying to create a book and the book didn't work out, and then I was like, there's something here. But before I get to that, I purposely made these like light gray because it took all of these different positions in order for me to get to New York SED and vice versa. So I started out as an intern, then I was a motion designer, then I was a videographer, then I was a travel photographer, and then I was an on-camera travel host, and then a creative producer and a creative director. And I would not have evolved. I could have easily stayed at any one of those levels had I not had this personal and very passionate project called New York SED that I did and do just for the passion of it. Like, I just sincerely want to capture and preserve the stories of many people in this room and just in New York in general, and people that I just meet on the street. And so because I don't really make money, it's very fulfilling, but I don't make money from New York SED. But New York SED is the hook that it's a playground where I'm allowed to just fail and try things. And because of that, the companies hire me. So like, these companies pay me because they see what I'm doing, and New York SED can stay alive because I keep getting the work. So I wanted to call this How Play Got Me the Work. And the very first thing I started playing with as far as the series is concerned was time lapse. 14 years ago, I bought an intervalometer. It's like a remote for a camera. So it's just a fancy way of saying, like, telling the camera, take one picture every 2 seconds, take 2 pictures. So I lived in Southside Jamaica, Queens at the time, and I'm just gonna show you this. This is my neighborhood. So where I'm standing, where I took this picture, I'm on the roof of the school called Allen Christian School. And so I got this remote and I'm like, I need to practice. I need to figure out how to shoot a time lapse. Nowadays, you can do it on your phone, but 10 years ago, you needed a special remote. So I'm on this roof with a time lapse intervalometer, my DSLR camera, and I'm trying my very first time lapse. But I needed to get access to the roof, so shout out to Miss Moran, because I was like, hey, do you mind if I get on the roof? And she was like, yeah, just don't fall off. And she gave me access. So I shot this, and it's not the best time lapse, but it's a start. And because Miss Morant gave me a start, I got the bug. And so I was like, you know what? Now that I know I can at least do one, I'm gonna go to Coney Island, I'm gonna go to Wall Street, I'm gonna go to all these places and try to get photography, because time-lapse photography is just thousands of images, thousands of photographs over time. When you're watching a film, it's 24 frames a second. That's what makes it so smooth. But with a time lapse, I'm speeding up time. So I went to Coney Island, and this particular shot, I was walking with my mother and my sister, and I stopped and I was like, I gotta get this. And they're used to it. They just kind of walked on. And I just sat there with my book bag and I unpacked and I just was like, I gotta get this. So I got this time lapse. And you know, the first thing you do is you get the composition. And then the second thing you do is like, how fast do I want it to go? Do I want this motion blur that's happening over here? Do I want it to not have motion blur? So I kept doing this. So this statue was here, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if people would come and take a picture with the statue, and I just, just kept going around. And some of these shots, like I have to charm people to get into. So this is 59th Street, Columbus Circle, and I'm in the Robert. They don't know me like that. So I have to like, hey, how you doing? And sell people on this idea. And so they allowed me to shoot this time lapse at night. And I'm in there like literally, they have this window of 59th Street, Columbus Circle, and somebody's eating right here, and I got my tripod, I'm like, excuse me, and I'm getting my shots. And so I did this for a few years, and then coming from a motion graphics background, I was like, you know what? I need to let people know that I'm doing this, and I need to do it in like 60 seconds. So I'm gonna play this, and the music's gonna play, and it's gonna jolt a little bit, just giving you the heads up. So I took those files, and when I made that video, you know, I'm a night owl, so I'm up to like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and every now and again I'll come across a website or something like that, and there was this like, hey, we're having a short film competition. So I was like, bet. So I just sent them the video, not thinking anything was gonna happen. I didn't win anything, but I did get honorable mention. And because I got honorable mention, this well-known magazine reached out and was like, hey, we saw your time-lapse video. Can you write an article about time-lapse? And so they just sent me all these questions. And just being where I'm from, I'm like, I'm not gonna just answer these questions. I'm gonna write this in a way where I'm talking to like a friend. So I just wrote it out in my voice. And then the guy wrote me back and he was like, we can't publish this without giving you full credit. And I was like, oh. Then I read the next paragraph, he was like, so we gave you full credit. And I was like, oh, okay. Because, and this is from that magazine, and the magazine was Digital Photo, which at the time was like I haven't read Digital Photo in a minute, but at the time, it was a prominent magazine. And I've been a private contractor for about 15 years, so sometimes I'm eating, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes things get real lean. And this was one of those times where the guy wrote me an email, and he was like, so for the writing thing that you did, what do you want us to send the money? And I was like, what money? Because I didn't know that, I was just like, I was gonna answer some questions. And so when I got the check, it was like exactly what I needed to get to the next stage of whatever it is I was gonna do. And stuff like this, where I'm just playing around, all of a sudden opens up these doors because you just throw your shot out there like, yo, I'm gonna put my film in and just see what happens, and the next thing happens, and the next thing happens, and the next thing, just starting out from a roof in Queens. And then, and I got sick of doing time lapses, I took all those files and I uploaded it to Getty. Now, there's only like 82 files up there. There's files from like when I went to Cuba and other things, but I don't get sales all the time. I might get a sale every few months, but since I'm not thinking about it, usually I get an email from them or a letter, and they're like, yo, do you want this money? Because it's not happening every month, but when it does happen, I'm like, oh wow, this can pay a bill. And so also keep that in mind, that sometimes you have a graveyard of assets, of digital resources that somebody else needs, and all you have to do is upload and add the metadata. So when I was walking around getting all these time lapses, I was taking pictures with that big fancy camera and with my phone, and I was like, I'm gonna make a book. I'm gonna make a book. And so I'm just hyped about making this book. So I made this book called I Love New York. I Might Have Been Tired. That's a very cheesy name. I cringe every time I see this book. But I make this book, and I'm thinking I'm gonna sell out, So it's everything that I saw at the time that I thought was interesting. So It was Occupy Wall Street. It was the Trayvon Martin rally at Union Square. It was characters in Times Square. It was characters in the Village. It was street art on Park Ave. It was this cop really enamored with blowing bubbles. And so this book had all these things, but it didn't speak to anybody. It was just a general book. And so nobody cared. And so I made every mistake in the book. I tried to I basically charged too much for this book. So people was like, I'm not paying for that. And so I ended up selling like 3. I sold 3 books. and I mean, I went all out. Like if I could go back, I had like the greatest paper. It's 245 pages. I just did too much. But had I not made these mistakes, there wouldn't be a New York Said. So to get my mind off failures or just like things like that, for the last decade or so, I've been a travel photographer. And so I've been working with this company called Miles, 15 years. So I started working with them full time. And then from 2007 to 2009, I resigned. But I didn't say like, yo, F you, I'm out. Like I wrote an exit letter. I was like, thank you very much. This was like school for me. I learned so much here. Because I really did, and I learned so much. And the people were mad cool. So when the company grew, and they ended up getting basically the entire country as their client, they took me along with them over the last 15 years. So they got every state that you could think of, whether it's Travel Oregon or if it's Chicago or Explore Louisiana. For the last 15 years, I've been helping them create digital assets with travel photography. So I'll go out, they'll send me an email, I'll go out on a mission, and they'll say something like, this is something that I actually did, this was recent. So the state of Pennsylvania, I didn't shoot this cover, I just wanted to show you that it was official. The state of Pennsylvania had the travel guide. So what my assignment is, we need you to go to Philly, and we need you to get that waterfront, and we need you to go to Harrisburg, and we need you to get that overlook, and then we need you to drive to the incline in Pittsburgh. And so here I am looking at the Ninja Turtle. I got all my gear, and I'm like, let me get this, and let me get that, and then I drive to the next town, and I get this little sleepy town, and then they'll send me to Lancaster, to Amish country, and then this place with this little baby goat. I shot so much, I gave them so many options, but I knew when I shot that goat, I was like, this is what they're gonna use. I just knew. And then they sent me to this Bethlehem museum. It's a railroad museum in Bethlehem. This is straight out of Mr. Rogers. It was a whole house of nothing but model trains that were driving. And I'm like in the set, like getting all my shots. I'm getting video and I'm getting footage. And then in the same trip, they've interviewed somebody, they've pre-interviewed, and they're like, yeah, we need you to go holler at Eddie and get a portrait of him. And we need you to go to Philly and get a shot of this woman, this bartender. Her name is Eden. So on the fly, I'm walking into these places and I'm like, okay, where's the natural light? I'm just like literally beautiful mind, like looking at like this, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do that, get you over here, okay, put your hair right there. And then I get the shot because it's like you're given a schedule and you have to get everything, and I don't wanna hear excuses. So like I'll get this shot of Eden, we did it at the bar, but then there was another area upstairs, I got a whole bunch of shots like that. So even though they would have been fine with that, I don't like to get emails saying like, why didn't you get this or why didn't you get that? So I went there and that shot won, and then I got the exterior. So a lot of times in one assignment, and this is when I'm not working with a crew, a lot of times I am working with a crew and I'm the producer, so I'm the guy talking to the camera guys or the actor or what have you. Whew. So at the Bethlehem Hotel, in this place, it was very dark, and this was a restaurant. So I saw she had that yellow dress, and I was like, there's another large window. So I was like, stand by these flowers, and I got another one by the piano. And she was nervous, so I have to also play therapist. I have to kind of be like, all right, do a lot of small talk, and just kind of get people comfortable. That's not her job to take pictures. And so she doesn't necessarily want to take the picture, but I have to kind of tap into my like Jamel Shabazz and just kind of like, you know, charm people into letting them know like I'm not a threat. So after an assignment like that, I revisited the book and I realized like it wasn't a failure. I just didn't have a theme. I didn't have the thing that what it was. So when I was flipping through it, the thing that I kept seeing was these words. So this is an LES. It says, remember, whatever you believe imprisons you. And this is behind a gate. And then this is Love by TMNK. God bless TMNK. He passed away. But this is in Dumbo. So, but when I took that picture, I didn't know him. So over time, these people who you think are just writing random things, you start meeting these people and they have a lot of intention and purpose in what they're doing. That was in Dumbo, a little shop in Dumbo. And this I walked by and I just, it's so poignant, and I've never seen it again. And so this is what I'm looking for. As I'm walking through the city or whatever, I'm looking for that. Yeah, it's cool to get like a witty statement on an A-frame or something like that, but really I'm looking for the little thing, the gems that people leave behind. So I made like a rough draft of the book, and I took all those words and I made a rough draft and I posted it on Instagram, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna make a book called New York Said. And the response from pretty much everybody in this crowd was like, I'd buy it. And I was like, okay. And the price point wasn't $200. The price point was $10. They was like, I can get behind $10. So I printed up 500 of them. And I was like, I gotta go, before I printed up 500, I gotta go and make a real cover, because this cover wasn't the move. It was just like a template that they had on the website. So I started walking around and I ended up passing this right off Bowery on 190 Bowery. This is where the Supreme store is and where Jay Maisel used to live until he sold it for $55 million and moved to Brooklyn. So I took this image and then I made my very first book, and I made 500 of them. And then I sold all 500, but I was like, how am I gonna sell 500 books? So this is some of the shots that were in the book. This is by that same person who wrote Love, but he wrote Love Somebody. This is on Houston. It's not there anymore. Everything that you're seeing is gone. All these shots that I'm about to show you, they're all gone. But when I was taking this picture, I was like taking a picture of this, and the cop was like, what are you looking at? And like just being rude. And I was like, look, you don't see that? It says Love Somebody. He was like, oh, cool, beat it. And I was like, yeah, all right. So I got out of there. And this is really what I'm looking for. You see right there in the corner, it says don't smoke crack. These little like unwarranted pieces of advice that the city gives you, I can get behind this. Like just seeing that, I remember I was walking with Ralph, who just walked in. We were walking, I was like, let me get a shot of this. And these little statements that are all around the city that people are just letting you know. So when I was like, how am I gonna sell 500 books, I got a phone call from a friend named Marco. He owns Kaye Dow. And Kaye Dow, there's 3 of them. But the very first one was by Bryant Park. And he called me up and he's like, Aman, I'm opening this restaurant. Can you shoot the food photography? I was like, Marco, I don't shoot food photography. He's like, but I think you could do it. I was like, but I don't do it. He's like, but you shot my kids and you did maternity shoots. I'm like, I don't do that kind of stuff. And so somehow he talked me into it. I shot the food photography. It's not worth showing, but he was happy with it. He was happy with it, thank God. But the PR lady that I was working with, the chef was being super mean to this lady. So the meaner he got to her, the nicer I got to her. So I was just like, yo, kicking it with her. I'm telling her, like, yeah, I got this book coming out. I got to sell 500. She was like, you need to holler at Marco and have a party here. And I was like, yeah, that would be dope. And she was like, I'm sure you'd be down for it. So I hollered at Marco. I was like, listen, you know you owe me the money for the food photography. Why don't we just call it even? Just like let me use the space and like give me some food, give me some empanadas and some beers and some wine, and let's have an event. And he was like, yeah, I don't got to give you any money. He was like, let's do it. So I had the event, invited all my friends and family. Everybody showed up. They invited people. I sold mad books. I didn't sell any prints, but there they are. Because back then I wasn't really worried about prints. I was more worried about these books. So eventually I ended up selling all my books, which was crazy because I didn't think that would happen after selling 3 books. And right after I did that, I just jumped right back into like sourcing for volume 2. This piece is by Hash Helper, AKA New York Romantic. He wrote Love Everywhere, and he passed away. He had some things going on. But he would draw hearts all over the city. If you remember, he would draw hearts all over the city. And I met him this day, and I took this picture. This was right there in Chelsea. And this was in the back of a store, and this is at Delancey, Essex. When I saw this, I lost it. I didn't have my camera on me. You know, it's supposed to always have your camera on you. I didn't have my camera on me, so I ran all the way home and got the camera, and I'm running. I'm like, please don't be going, please don't go. It's spray paint. It's not going anywhere. And it stayed there for months, but I just stood there until like I got the shot that I wanted, which is the individual at the top and me at the bottom, and I called it Love on an Escalator, and then that made it into volume 2. And then I was walking with my mom one day. I don't know if we was getting tacos or sangria, and we were walking, and then I got this epiphany, and I was like, this is it. This is the cover to volume 2. This is going to be it. And this is the front door, again, of 190 Bowery, where the Supreme store is. Except for usually this door is obliterated with graffiti. But in one day, it was black, and then probably that same day, somebody came by and wrote Life's a Trip. And me working in travel all these years, it just resonated with me. I was like, yeah, life is a trip. So I made it the cover. And all those things that you're seeing in the background are the stickers that I make. I keep stickers on me, so if anybody wants a sticker, I give out stickers. I don't give out business cards because they end up in the business card graveyard and no one ever uses them. But they put a sticker on you on their water bottle, on their laptop, and that's even better. So then when I posted the cover, this guy hit me up and was like, I wrote Life's a Trip. I'm the guy who wrote that. And at the time, I was like wanting to make an interview series where I'm like, who's writing this stuff? Who's doing this stuff? And so when he hit me, I was like, yo, if you really wrote that, meet me at the steps and I'll give you a copy of the book. And when he showed up, I was like, so tell me why you did it. And I put a microphone in his face. And this is the very first episode of New York Said. And so like that was like a sign. I was like, yeah, okay, let's get it cracking. So since then, I've done about, 250 interviews for New York Said, and a good amount of people have been on the show, from G to Steve to TTK, who's in the crowd right there, and that's his work right there, to Destiny, and then I've recorded episodes that never came out because I felt for whatever reason we need to do it again, and I'll circle back. It just might take time, but it's 250 episodes of one-on-one conversations highlighting just beautiful minds of the city. And they don't necessarily have to be from New York. Like this person right here, Dan Lamb, she's out in Dallas, and I call that out of state. So I don't want to keep people out of it. I just really want to focus on New York. But if something that's cool that's not about New York, I'll include it. This is where I wanted to bring up the actual website so you can see, well, because it's my website, that's the other part. Because I own this thing, I can do whatever I want. Now, I follow directions for clients all day. So I love cigars. So if I'm going to have a cigar show, that's me and Juan right there. We have a show called Sunday Cigar just because. And it's like, what's that got to do with New York? You can buy cigars in New York. So it's a New York show. But Juan is a master tobacconist. And one time he was just like, why aren't there any good, like he was on Facebook, like, why aren't there any good cigar podcasts? And I was like, you know what you need to do? You tired of producers dancing in your video? Come on over to New York Said. And next thing I know, I was joking and I was like, you know what, we really should make this podcast. And so we did like 27 episodes of all these shows. But here's the thing. Even though I'm shooting pictures of words, now New York Said is like, now you got to shoot pictures of cigars. So now I'm shooting cigars. Like, how do I make a cigar look interesting? So it's giving me that ability to do that. And then this series is called, this shot was shot by Destiny, who's right there, which is like one of my favorite shots on Avenue D, and that's Juan. And I learned that from our episode. So I'm doing my best to highlight and have conversations, even with Jerry Saltz. He gave me an hour of his time. I'll take a long shot. It took me like a year and a half to get Jerry on the show. Just like schmoozing and seeing him at the Whitney. Hey, Jerry, how you doing? All right. And then when the pandemic canceled his book tour, I was like, hey, Jerry, you know you could just come and talk about it on the show, right? He was like, you would do that? So like I found the right opportunity just by kind of like not being a pest, just showing up, and stuff like that. So this is the whole website. I've talked to Lady Pink, to Timothy Greenfield Sanders, we talked about his documentary about Toni Morrison. If you know what Crank Inc. is, the person who created Crank Inc., they're out in Brooklyn. We did something. And because of stuff like this, where I make videos for New York Said, working with Steve, I'm like, yo, Steve, we should make a video about this. And then those same companies who watch me just do whatever I do uncut, they're like, I saw what you did in Manhattan. Can you do it in Detroit? Can you do it in Oregon? Can you? And so like I'm creating the work that I want to be hired to do with this playground called New York Said. So I wanted to come out of that in there. And then I wasn't going to show you guys this video, but I don't think it's necessary. A lot of times I'll get called to go to a state to be myself. They say, hey, can you go to Oregon and go whitewater rafting? And I'll go with a crew and I'll just do whatever people do in Oregon. And I love it because I've never been, when I went, I've never been. So let me see if it for the show. So it looks like this. So you go to the Japanese gardens and all this they're shooting is to promote the state. And so at first I was the videographer and then I was the photographer. And then because I was making videos on my own, they were like, come make videos with us. And so this is Visit the USA, this is the Department of Tourism. So they were like, well, can you go to Mount Hood National Forest in Oregon and ride a bike? I was like, yeah. Can you go kayaking? I like the kayak. Do you want to go, you want some beer? Yeah, let's do some beer. So I'm holding a beer, I'm in distilleries, I'm in breweries, and I'm having this experience that I never thought in a million years that I would have. So like, I still do that. Like I did one in Atlanta that I'm waiting to come out. It was Jekyll Island to Savannah to Atlanta. And it was incredible. Like it was like eating fancy food and drinking fancy beers and seeing fancy things. And this one was in Dallas. So that same PR person hit me out of the blue and she was like, hey, Kimpton Hotel is looking for a resident artist. And I was like, what is that? What does that mean? She was like, they have these wine nights. And I was like, what do I have to do? Do I have to pay? She was like, no. She's like, you can sell your art and you can talk about your art with the guests during the wine night. I said, so all I got to do is are they going to take some of the money? She was like, no, you get to keep all the money. I was like, I was going to drink wine and talk to people. And she was like, yeah. I was like, I could do that. I could do that. So for like a year, I would go to Kimpton. This was with Kimpton Hotels, and I would sell my prints. That's my TTK pose. I'm selling art, I'm selling books, and I'm learning how to sell. I'm learning how to print. And this all came from a cultivated relationship working with my friend that's a PR agent. And then Ink 48 wanted to do like various events, so we did like a scavenger hunt. And then one day they hit me up and was like, give us some of your photography. We're gonna print up thousands of postcards, and when guests check in, we're gonna put one by the phone. And I was like, say less. So I gave them, like, you're gonna pay for it? So I gave them like 5 or 6 pictures and they made these postcards. And for like 2 years, they would hit me up and be like, we're gonna do another run. We're gonna do another run. And it was letting people know that the project was out there with Kimpton Hotels, Ink 48 down in Hell's Kitchen, it was a really cool experience. And then as anything happens, things changed. The people who brought me in the building weren't the people in the building anymore. So I would walk in, they'd be like, and who are you? And I was like, I'm done here. We're done. Because it's like, I wasn't valuable. Like the people I was valuable to was like all about it. And then when the guard changes, you gotta know when to leave the party. So we had this event at the presidential suite, which was cool. And I was trying to learn how to sell, like it was cool to sell those little prints, but I wanted to sell big prints. And I wasn't selling any because I was, now I'm evolving and trying to do more of that. And so I go into this bar and I'm like, oh, I like this art on the wall. Like, how can I get my art on the wall? And the guy was like, let me see your art. So I showed him. And so somehow I got my art in the wall and I sold zero. Sold nothing. People do not go to bars to buy art. They go to bars to buy drinks and they go to bars to buy beers. And I learned that the hard way, lugging all that stuff back to my house. It's a lot. It's heavy. And it wasn't Ubers like that. So I was just like, okay, lesson learned. Guess what? I get a phone call from my PR friend, and she's like, hey, there's a restaurant that's opening up in Meatpacking. They opened up this brand new restaurant, and I was like, if they want it, they gotta buy it. Because I had declared, I was like, I'm not putting my artwork and no more pizza shops and no more restaurants. I had this whole TED talk for her, and she was like, no, it's not like that. She was like, they're gonna buy it. And I was like, okay. So of course, she introduced me to Chef Vince, and Chef Vince bought a series, about 12 pieces, and I was over the moon. So he bought, this shot was taken in the Williamsburg Bridge, and that's also gone. So this shot, it says, no shitting here, you will die. And when I was taking this picture, I was in the alley around, I'm not gonna say this thing, I don't wanna snitch on anybody, but around the city where they sell all the bags off Canal. I was in the alley over there, and I saw this, and my friend was like, why would you take that? Nobody's gonna buy that. Nobody's gonna buy that picture. And sure as shit, Vince was like, I'm gonna put this in the bathroom of my fancy restaurant. And I was like, that's a great idea. And so this is his fancy restaurant. It has tasting menu, phenomenal wine, and this, he kept it, like he didn't want to put it in frame. He wanted to keep it gritty like the street. And eventually over time, those prints looked just as gritty as the street because like the water would leak on the print. And I didn't really care because I was like, he bought it. I'm not selling this stuff, so I wasn't attached to it anymore. I was like, if it's yours, however you choose to treat it, it's all good. And then he hit me and was like, yo, I'm gonna put some markers in my bathroom and see what happens. I was like, oh yeah? What do you think is gonna happen? It's gonna look like a dive bar in your bathroom. And so it looked crazy, so I made this placard. So this is what the bathroom looked like. And look, 7 years, that's what that no shitting here, people tore it up. And I love it. I was like, perfect. So, so then I started putting these under the actual prints because he kept saying, people keep coming in here and they keep going, what does New York said? What is this print? He's like, we don't have any information. I was like, all right. It took me like 6 years, so I made this. But I'm showing you this because I could put the QR code and connect the QR code to the store. And then I did drop shipping and people could just scan it and I would get an email saying, you just sold a print. And I was like, I don't gotta go nowhere. I'm just like, yeah, I'll have another. I didn't want to be the guy lugging mad, packages to the post office. And I know people do that, but I just wanted to be really passive about the income that came here. So I'm showing you this placard because I didn't design that logo. Because of the project itself, Nacho, also known as Ignacio Fernandez, I never met him, but he was really into the project. He was really into the interviews. He was really into the photography, and he just tagged New York Said. He created this and tagged New York Said, and I was like, that's crazy. And so I hit him on the DM. I'm like, yo, how much do I gotta pay you to like get the rights to use that? Because I mean, like, he was like, well, he gave me this great deal, and he was like, plus you gotta buy me a beer and give me a mug when I come to New York. I was like, say less. So he came to New York, he cleaned up the file, and there was this. And it was one of the best investments ever. I made a friend, we had a beer. What's up, cuz? We had a beer, and I gave him the mug. So I say that to say, like, sometimes, and at the time, I'll be honest with you, I truly believe in manifestation because I was geeking over that Nipsey Hussle Crenshaw logo, and I was like, yo, I want one of those. But I was like, I don't know anybody that could make that. I didn't know who to, and out of the blue, just thinking about it and thinking about it, somebody in Paris heard my thoughts, drew exactly what I wanted, and so then I was like, I'm gonna start playing with this thing. So I was kicking it with Jason, and we were in the building. I used to live in LES, and we were talking, and I was like, yo, Jason, if I give you that shirt, will you like take pictures in it? And he was like, yeah, okay. So I said, he was like one of those kids that at the time he was like really into like wheeling bikes and part of the bicycle games back then. So I designed this shirt just to put it on the store. So I was doing more drop shipping type stuff. But again, New York Said is now putting me in a position where now I have to learn how to take merchandise photography. So it's like I'm learning how to do merchandise photography for my own personal projects, and then people see you moving and they're like, hey, can you do some stuff for me? Because they see me doing whatever it is I'm doing already with this personal project. And so he had a friend, and I said, give him the same deal. I was like, yo, I'll give you this hoodie if you take a picture in it. And so he showed up, and I just think he looks extremely cool. And I really like this lady who's like, I don't know what she's looking at, but she is enamored by it. So then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I got to restructure some things. Things are changing, and I need to I had thoughts, I had time. So then I was like, what if I started writing stuff and putting it in the street? So I started coming up with these statements that some of them are cliche, some of them I was making up. And as you can see, where that pen is, I pre-wrote them. On my table, I keep a blue tarp to just keep all notes, because sometimes you can't find a book. So I just start writing on the table, and if I use a tarp, I won't write on the actual table. And I also write it in that little pad over there, as well as writing it on a paper. So I wrote all these tags, and then I went out and I made them the subject. Now, I grew up saying, all money ain't good money. I heard that in the barbershop. We all have heard that. And it means different things at different times. So I would use these as prompts when I would record podcasts and be like, what does this mean to you? I show them the picture, like an ink block. What does this picture mean to you? And now we have a dialogue. And so back in the days, this meant I'm not gonna sell crack, because all money ain't good money. But now as an adult and as a professional, and I never sold crack, and I don't have a criminal record, just gonna put that out there. It means if I'm gonna spend time doing something, I'm gonna make it worth my time. I'm not gonna do things that I can make a lot of money, but it ain't the money that I actually want. I really want to do things that are fulfilling to me. Yeah, I can have a lot of money, but it's I'm gonna have a lot of money and hate the things that I'm doing at work, and then hate when I get home, just a bastard. I'd rather just not have as much money and really enjoy whatever it is that I'm doing. And so that's what that means, but that could change tomorrow if you give me a sandwich. I got this one, I actually made this one up. I'm gonna leave this here. I got this out of a bad relationship. And I just needed to get it off my chest. And so I wrote it and took a picture of it. And then I got a grant. I got a $5,000 grant from New York during the pandemic. And the only caveat was we're gonna give you this money, you gotta have an exhibition. I was like, I could do that. And I took all the money and I put it toward the exhibition. I was like, I'm gonna really do it. So when I started looking for spots, they were I was like, hey, how much does it cost to have maybe a weekend? It was $5,000. I was like, how much about just a day? $5,000. I'm like, how do you know this number? They must have known that everybody got this grant. So I just so happened to be really good friends with Jane Friedman of Howl Galleries. And she called me about another project. And I was like, while I have you on the phone, and I told her what happened, and she was like, oh yeah, no, we don't have to, no, I got this time for you. Don't worry about the bread. So I put all the money that I got toward the show. So all the prints, everything. And she was like, just give me Jane is easily one of the most incredible people I've ever met. And I wanted to tell that story, but I only have 45 minutes to an hour. But if it wasn't for her, this wouldn't happen. So I wouldn't have been able to say, suck it with enthusiasm in a gallery. Yeah, I thought I was choked up. I was. I put this on the back wall as a surprise. Because it's just jarring. What does that mean? You know what that means. So I put all of these statements. These were all the things that I had written just to play around with, the subject matter. And so I had 50 prints over here, and then I had 300 on that projector over there. And then these things over here, those are collages. So I cut up, so all these 50 pictures, I cut those up and I make actual collages. I love making collages. And that's what Jane Friedman was calling. She was like, we're having a group show. Do you have anything? And I was like, yeah, I got something. Hung up the phone. I was like, I got to make something. And so I made a collage. She was very happy with it. It looked similar to that, except for it was smaller. And it was in the show. It was all these incredible artists. And I was like, damn, I don't know what I did to be here, but I was ecstatic. But again, I have those images, but I don't have the time to tell that story. And shout out to Steve, because Steve shot all this behind the scenes stuff. He's a G. And so in the show, I was asking people, I would point to one of the photos and I'd be like, tell me what this means to you. And then we would sit down and talk for like 10 minutes. And so I was creating more stories and capturing more stories. And eventually, I had like 15 of them. And I never put them out. I'm going to put them out. I just need to process, because like this person right here, he was telling some like deep story. Everybody got really deep really quick. It didn't take much to be prompted by like, fuck around and find out. People like, oh, I got a story for that. And they would just go off. And then Jeanette came. You didn't think I was going to put you on the Summer Jam screen. I got you. Jeanette came, and I was like, oh, snap, Jeanette Beckman came to my show. Shit, I was like, but as you can see, like in the back where it says forgive yourself, I would ask them, like, so what does forgive yourself mean? And I would put the microphone, and they would just like start out really light, and then they would just get really deep in 10 minutes. And so I just didn't want to be putting such deepness out without, really doing it correctly. So those recordings are still yet to come. When I did that show, a college, St. Olaf College, found out about it. I don't know how they found out about it, but they're out in Minnesota. And they were like, can you walk our students around the neighborhood and show them like what street art is? And I was like, hell yeah. So I started in First Street Park, and I was like, breaking down stickers, breaking down tags, breaking down murals, like giving them the whole gamut. And we just did like a 6-block radius and went to like all these various alleys and places that I'm constantly going. And it was hype. And then I already got the email this year to do it again, which is a blessing. And then I got hit up to go deep in the hood in the Bronx and to collaborate with an art teacher named Angela. And she was like, can you bring New York Said to my students? I was like, hell yeah. So I went to the hood, and I brought a whole bunch of New York Said prompts. I gave them stickers, I gave them prompts, and we just worked. And the way with kids that are too cool for school, you kind of got to like pull them to the side, talk to them a little bit, and then like get them to do it. And then the people who think they're the cool kids are like, oh, Joey's doing it? Oh yeah, I'm doing it now too. And so I was slowly building relationships, which I learned to do on the road, going to Bethlehem, talking to random strangers. I now had the comfortability to be able to talk to students and just speak to their humanity and speak to their love and speak to their joy and kind of like navigate around that cool shit. Because kids are cool, and I got gray hair, so they think I'm old. So once we created everything, so like, don't be afraid to fail, prosper. They really took to it, which was crazy. And this all happened in one day. And I was just like, blown away. So these are all the kids, and they're all holding their collages. And it was an incredible experience. I'm at the point in my life where it was like, I've done quite a bit of photography and video and this, that, and the third. Like, it makes no point for me to get this far and not give back and give my actual experiences. And I know I'm talking fast, but with this, I was really seriously into it and answering questions and kind of being that example of like, yo, it can happen. If you pursue it, if you try, if you fail, it's all good. So this was a really incredible experience. This is where I kind of shake things up a little bit. The one thing I didn't put on the list was artists. Throughout all this, the DNA for everything that I do is art. It took me a very, very, very long time to identify to say I'm an artist. I was having a conversation with Steve one day. He was like, I'm a working creative, you're an artist. And I was like, keep going. And so for like an hour, he and I were like having this conversation. He broke it down, and I was like, yeah. I can be a working creative. I know how to follow directions. I know how to show up on time. I know how to check all the boxes in corporate. I love it, but I knew when to like take what's mine and give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Or you can rent my hands, but you can't have my soul. My soul is gonna go to New York Said. But my hands, I'll show up and I'll be here and I'll show up as if you're paying me $1 million. But the art of it, and being able to just explore I never want to lose that. So with all this new technology coming out, I've always wanted to just say, you know what? What if I didn't shoot, words? Or what if I didn't shoot people? What if I wanted to shoot cats? Like, what if I wanted to shoot cats in suits? Like, what if I wanted to make, like, stylish wildlife? So I was like, there's a haberdashery for stylish people, but, like, what if I just kept asking, like, what if? And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make cats that are, like, so fly that you'll be like, yo, where's that cat from? So this is me joking around and playing around in Midjourney, and I'm learning to create photography out of like, I'm literally laying on my bed like this, like, give me like a cat in a denim patchwork suit and kind of make him disgruntled and make another one happy, like he's like just won $1 million. And I just keep going. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to have like this crazy looking bird that looks like an assassin, and then just this like dinosaur who's just like in a leather suit. And I'll type out leather suit. And I'm just like playing around with, this isn't photography, so don't get it twisted. It's not even photography. It's just me messing around with technology and just seeing where it can go. Like, you can have a whole debate about AI. When we leave, we're gonna go to a spot, we can have that conversation. But this is fun. This is like Super Mario 2 for me right now. And so sometimes I'm making things where I'm like, what even is that? Like, I don't know what that is. And then you keep going further down the rabbit hole, and you're like, I want to make a fat crocodile. He doesn't exist, so I can call him fat. A fat crocodile and his own skin. It's kind of crazy. But I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just playing with the technology. I'm saying, like, make this thing. And then I just keep going. So I'll spare you. But then I made this. What is that? When I made this, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it startled me. And I was just like, I don't know what it is. It's scary. If it really like made my heartbeat jump. And so I wanted to make a zine called Zubadashery. And so with Zubadashery, it's just this playground where I'm just styling animals and things that I've never seen before, evidently. And this is the last one. Again, what is this? So I was playing around. Hey, how you doing? I was playing around with the technology again, and I was doing my best to just give it prompts, because you're basically talking to the technology like, I want it to be in an Armani suit, and I want it to be a psilocybin mushroom, and I want it to be in a rainforest. And I just keep going and keep going. And the craziness is that I can like change up now. It just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's moving faster and faster and faster. So I was like, I could either like stand to the side and complain about it and have all kinds of thoughts, or I can at least just try it out so I can know if it's for me or not. But I don't want to like look up and kind of be the old person like, hey, can you put this app on my phone? No disrespect, Ma, I love you. So the last two things that I'm going to show you, and I'm making great time. I was talking pretty fast. Holy shit. Serendipity art is what I've started doing, where it's not a scavenger hunt. It's just me putting good energy into the world. And so I create these little art pieces. They look like this. So this is the Life's a Trip. And then on the back, I've written something that I'm not going to spoil for you. And then I put a QR code, and that takes you to a whole other adventure. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but when you leave, I put a stack of them right there. So they're for free, but take one, because there's a lot of y'all. And I don't know, and if you didn't get one, I'm going to put my QR code back up there, and I'll get it to you. But I'm going to leave that there. And so the last thing that I'm going to show you is a 5-minute preview about having an idea, and do you need to be the person to execute the idea? Like, you can draw, but do you actually need, if you're going to be a street artist, do you need to be the person painting the idea on the street? And so it's that conversation between the architect and the engineer. So it's 5 minutes, and I'm done.
It's especially great for one local artist with a very sweet tooth.
Can I finish this?
With every bite, the day got sweeter and sweeter.
It's donut day. This day is the day that I look forward to.
When he's not scarfing down strawberry frosted treats, he's painting them.
A piece like this might take a day.
He's a street artist who goes by the name Jerkface, born and bred in New York. He's painted more than 50 murals across the city, many featuring cartoons and his favorite snack.
I was always fascinated by the color, the shape of it, the aesthetic in a sense.
He aims to make all of his work, like this one on the corner of Houston and Mott, exude a brightness and emulate a happier time.
At the end of the day, in this world where everything is war this and political that, we all need some type of a sweetness or a color to bring to our lives, and that's what I like to provide in my work. Happy National Donut Day. Would you like a donut? Good, thank you. Okay, cool.
And on this self-proclaimed holiday of his, he wanted to give the greatest gift of all.
Yes, sir. Would you like one? Happy National Donut Day.
Thank you, man.
Of course. Enjoy. Enjoy. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Yeah, you said it.
The artist will be showcasing more of his donut-inspired art at an upcoming show in Lower Manhattan.
He's certainly a happy fella, isn't he?
Oh my goodness! Want a donut? Have a
Yeah,
donut. I'm a happy guy.
I love that.
After having my work in galleries for years, I came to this realization that there are so many other ways that I can share my art. I would walk around the city and I'd see these empty walls and I'd always say, why can't I just paint on that? But the truth of the matter was, I'd never painted a wall before. It frustrated me that my inabilities kept my art limited to the inside. I felt like a kid that couldn't go outside and play. A friend of mine who is a street artist told me, if you ain't been using spray paint, then why start now? And then he basically said something like, there are way too many people doing cartoons in the street, and basically I would have nothing new to offer. And it sucks, because for a while, I believed him. But I still had this desire to see my art on walls. And then one day I was drawing this Bugs Bunny with a bunch of big long ears, and it hit me. I could do whatever I want. I got bread. I could just pay somebody to do that shit.
Thank you.
Why jerk face?
Why the name? That's a question that in a street art world, especially in the street art world, you're not supposed to have some. Usually, the artist does everything, and that's pretty much where I leave that answer. Yes. Yes, I am a jerk. If you know me, I'm a jerk. But a lot of the jerk-based stuff, I can talk to you off camera because this is a secret that I just showed you guys. Like, we're in a safe space. So it'll be in the video, but it's a secret. So I just felt like compelled to share it with you because I love you guys.
So my question starts from the mid-journey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so my question starts from the mid-journey. I feel like it is quite important for artists to catch the trend for the technique, like AI, etc. So I'm really curious about your opinion for the film.
Oh, with Midjourney, what my opinion is?
No, for the film. Because I feel like it is quite important for artists to catch a trend in the new technique.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but my question is, so because of that. Oh, video? Okay. Oh, okay. So, I'm really curious about your opinion about film, old film.
I love film. I love film photography. I love actual films. I mean, there's always going to be a new technology. And the reason why I jumped into Midjourney is because I don't want to have it pass me by. You kind of like phase yourself out, even if you just need to know it. Like, if I was to go get a corporate job, I'm sure I need to know Excel. Do I necessarily want to know Excel? No. But I would have that kind of experience, and it's the same thing in the art. So whether it's collage, painting, film, digital, like there's always going to be that line in the sand where some people are like, I only shoot film, and some people say I only shoot digital. But the options are yours. It really is the cards that you play and what works for you. Because everything that I'm going to tell you, they're just my opinions toward my master plan and what I'm working toward. So, yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, really nice to meet you. Really inspirational.
Very nice to meet you.
I was kind of curious. So, you said a lot of like how you really got a lot of success was from meeting the people and speaking to them. Do you find that you're somebody who's like would go up to somebody and say hello, or are you the kind of person it's the other way?
I'm not the guy that will work a room. I despise that. Like, I've been in events, a lot of times I'll stand over to the side and I'll usually find the person that I rock with and I'll just kick it with them all night. But I'm not the shake hands and kiss babies kind of guy. I am the guy that cultivates relationships over time. So, like, for example, I keep saying Steve's name. I met him in 2000. It's 23. That's 20 years. That person sitting right there, her name was Odessa. I met her in 97. We're still mad cool. So, like, so many people in this room I've known over a decade, and I'm good with that. So, like, when I do network, I don't. I actually don't. What I do, I will say, is I pitch. So, like, I'll, like, the same way where I got Jerry Saltz. It took a year and a half for me to get a conversation with this guy, but I'm over time saying, all right, how you doing? Slowly creating a rapport. But like that immediacy of like working in a room and saying, hey, I'm a mom focus. You need to know that I do this. I just put it in the work and somehow let the people find the work and put it out there like that. Like I'm definitely not famous, but the right people know that I exist. Is that I should say that. And then I cultivate that relationship over the years by saying, like, doing what I'm saying I'm gonna do. So if I say I'll meet you at 7, I'll probably be there at like 6:45, because I respect your time. And people remember that, you know. And even if they're running late, I'm just like, yo, we're good. I'm not tripping because I didn't want to be I have the anxiety. So like the way you treat people, your kindness, those are the ways that I cultivate relationships and meet people through people. You know, somebody's like, yo, you need to meet them on. Or I'm like, yo, you need to meet this person because it's energy. There's certain people that I know that I'm mad cool with, but they're so aggressive that I'm like, I can't introduce you to them because you don't have the heart to interact with this person. He'll eat your food. And that's him right there with the crazy hat and the white shirt. That's you can hear it in his laugh. He's like, yeah, that's Al right there. But I've known Al for over 20 years. But he you know that like that saying like still sharp and still. Like Al, he was my very first client that I ever had out of college, and he kind of like put me through that, you know, that war room machine. Like I was training, just interacting with him. And so to have it go from client to friend to brother in over 20 years is something that, that's I would prefer to play the long game than hey, how you doing, and be forgotten when you leave the event.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We met in 97 too, Liz.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for giving us like one of the most alive I3 lecture during this semester. I had an amazing time. So my question is like whenever in the video, when you talked about what other people said, like how can you make these cartoons like more unique or more you through like recreating these cartoon characters that already exist and that everybody already knows their personality. How did you make those characters more you, or like what do you think is the best way or like advice to give us, like how can we create or mimic things that already exist to make it more ours?
Well, if you really think about it, and I have thought about it, especially during the pandemic, like taking edibles and stuff, it was rough. You think about it, you got a lot of time, you gotta kill this time. My favorite artist ever is God, whatever you call it. So God made everything, and everything is an imitation of that. So if you see Mickey Mouse, God made the mouse.
Right.
So like, whatever Disney did or whoever created Mickey Mouse or whatever character or even a tree or a landscape, if I go out and I paint a landscape, I'm literally painting God's work into man. So whatever you create in your style, in your voice, how do you create your voice? You come up with your own system. You create your own universe. You create your own rules. And you don't break those rules.
Right.
And you know, like say for example, with Zubadashery, the rule is it's gotta be an animal, it's gotta be stylish. That's it. And then I'll write like some crazy essay about it if you go in Zubadashery. But that's it. Like I'm not gonna do, like I could easily do an anime character, but like anything that's created, even if you look at a film, if you study any film, nothing new was under the sun. They're just taking their take on it. Everybody in this room is a one of one. Everybody's wearing a different shirt or a different type of sneaker. Whatever your style is, you stick to that. Because there's people who are like, I ain't like that Zubadashery shit. I like the word stuff, or I didn't like the word stuff. But if I listened to what people thought, I wouldn't do shit.
Right.
So you have to just have confidence and know when you succeeded for yourself and know when you failed for yourself. Because nobody's going to be able to tell you, it's just their opinions. And you can hit certain marks and get certain objects of success that defines what you define as success, but that conversation is within you. Because for me, this room is a success. Like, oh shit, mad people came tonight. And mad people that like these guys flew up from Orlando. Like, that's nothing to sneeze at. And they flying back tomorrow. That's success to me. Right. Now, somebody might be like, yo, why we wasn't charging at the door? Yo, why you not gonna sell those prints? That works for them, and I don't judge them. Whatever works for you specifically, make it yours. Whether it's your art, your writing, your photography, your iPhone photography, your AI, like you start peering over into other people looking at somebody else's paper, you're already lost.
Right. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Coming to the front. You first, I'll come to you next.
Hello.
What's
My bad. Quick question. So you shoot a lot of freeform subject material. My only question was.
Hold up, let me Google that. What is that? No, I'm just joking. Go for it.
But yeah, you shoot a lot of freeform subject material. My only question was like, did your race ever like come into play with
My
like,
race?
Yeah, like when you
All
were
the
like.
time. I'm black.
Well, yeah, but like, how has it like affected you and like what you've been like trying to do and accomplish?
I'm wherever I go. So let's just be clear. I have to know that I'm black wherever I go. It's just survival. Like it's just part of the black experience where you have to just know whether it's fight or flight. Now with my art and with the opportunities that I'm allowed or opportunities that I'm not allowed, I'm sure it plays a part, but I got to keep on going. There are times where I'm actively ignored. For every guest that I've had on the show, I have just as many emails of the person not responding. Or it's someone who said they wanted to do the interview and sit in front of me and just kind of like talk to me like I ain't shit. Now, I could go into the race bag. I could go in this person's a jerk bag. I can go into several bags, but it's just like, all right, I can make this a 15-second experience, or I could just like take this trauma on and just bring it throughout the rest of my life. So I'm going to deal with this every single day. Like I've literally this month walked and waited for the bus and had the bus driver like look at me and go, and just pull off. Was it a black thing? I don't know. But what am I gonna do with that? You get what I'm saying? So like race plays a part in everything that I do. When I find myself in Kentucky, yeah, I'm in Kentucky, but I grew up in Southside Jamaica, Queens. Southside Jamaica, Queens prepared me to navigate the entire world because hood rules apply in the corporate America and Kentucky. All you gotta do is just pay attention. So that's just, like, yeah, I think about race because I'm black. I wake up, I'm like, oh shit, I'm still black. But I don't use it as a crutch. I'm not like, yo, New York said it's a black project. Yeah, there's mad black people on there. But there's mad white people on there too. There's mad people of everything. So like, instead of like saying like, oh, it's a black thing, I'm like, it's a cultural thing. It's a everybody thing. But I make sure as a black guy that like TTK is on the site, Destiny is on the site, everybody is represented. And when they are represented, I put just as much special attention where I'm like, yo, tell me your life. Okay, I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna learn about you. Whether you're super famous or like my sister's been on the show, she works in dialysis. Tell me about it. Tell me your story. And it's fantastic. So it's like, I can't get around the black experience. It's just what it is. But I don't spend a lot of time going, you know what? As a black man, I need to do this black thing. And I guess I could, but I feel like I'm black. You clearly see that I'm black. So whatever I did was done by a black man. And I don't have to keep reiterating the fact that I'm black. And I can just let my black excellence be what it is. So I hope that answers your question. It doesn't take much to get me hyped, right? I wasn't going to drink a coffee. My girl was like, please don't.
Hey, thanks so much for the talk. I loved how you, like, the sort of innocence you bring to your work, or, like, talking about it as a playground, and how the playground opens it up for other opportunities. Sometimes I find it's hard to maintain that mindset, especially if something starts to get a little success or promise. I start thinking, like, outcome or whatever. Yeah. So, like, how do you sort of maintain that, like, playfulness for your work?
You see my sister behind? There's no time for the success of the big head. It's just, and I know it's very fleeting. Like sometimes you get a project, you're like, this is crazy. But when it's over, it's over. And can you do it again? Like I think Jay-Z he said, like, you made a hit, we'll make another hit. You got to keep making hits. And sometimes I might make a hit, and it'll be years before I make another one. Or it might be months before I make another one. But the key is to just keep going. And I'm not thinking about hits. I don't even think about the hits on my podcast or interview or even the website. Sometimes people are like, hey, can we see your numbers? We would like to have this guest on your show. Can we see your numbers? I'm like, no, I don't even look at the numbers. So like, they're either going to be on the show because they want to be on the show, or they don't. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not driven by money. I'm not driven by, I should be. I really should be. Like, I really should be driven by money. I need some bread. But I'm driven by the culture. And when you say that's a very general thing, but I'm driven by capturing and preserving story. That is my purpose and intention. And sometimes that looks like Destiny and I, a couple of weeks ago, we were in Baruch houses just interviewing seniors, like what was it like in the Lower East Side in the 80s? That shit was dope as hell. We were like eating cookies and drinking water, and they were just cracking jokes and smoking Newports. I was like, I haven't had a Newport in 20 years. Not gonna do it, because I'll be smoking right here telling this talk. But it was cool to be around them, because they just had that good energy, and they were done fronting for people. They were done. They were just, this is who I am. And so like, the playground is not just my playground. Like, Destiny invited me to that project, so now I'm in Destiny's playground or her universe. I'm like, yo, this is pretty dope. And then I go, but I'm utilizing the things that I've learned, because at the end of the day, like, so you have. That's really all you have. And if you get deterred by success, you're gonna stumble and fall, because that shit don't last. Like, you have that moment, and some people manage to do it for a long time, but it's like this. Most creatives, working creatives and artists, it's like this. You have peaks and valleys, and what you do in those valleys is how you act when you're at those peaks. Because when you're in those valleys, people remember who the hell you were at those peaks.
I hope you people are writing this down. It's gold. It's golden.
So I feel like you have a lot of brilliant idea to sell your art, and for an artist, it is quite different to selling the art and make the art. So I want to know how do you balance as a people to selling the art, and how do you like make the art? How to balance these two things?
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I ain't that good at selling art. Like, I'm good at selling my services. I'm good at working, like if I had a conversation, I can't think of anybody in this room that I couldn't sit down and have an interview with. Like, that's where I thrive. Salespeople do sales. So if you want to sell art, like the mistake I made was don't try to sell art in a bar, because they don't buy art in bars. So something as simple as that, I had to learn the hard way. But usually I've learned to just like let the people who do the sales do the selling. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not good at selling art. So I don't want to give you like some bad advice and you'll be like, yo, I'm bankrupt, you owe me. And then I gotta stick my sister on you. It's not gonna be good.
Yes, lovely. Hi.
Thank you for sharing. It was very interesting. My question is, with your project, the New York Set, you went through different media. Like, you started at one point, but then you went to like interviews, photos, postcards, books. So how do you keep this experience for your new projects? And do you think of these projects as a multimedia projects from the beginning, or that just happened?
It just happened. It happened organically. Like, you literally, there's a book called Art and Fear, and I'll save you 3 hours. It's basically like, listen to the work. The answers that you need to get are by doing the work. So everything takes you to the next step. So I started out with photography, and I got a grip on photography. And then I was like, okay, how do I print it? And then how do I put it in a book? And then, so you're like, your mind just keeps going and you just keep taking things to the next level. But you have to be open to it, and you have to listen to the project itself. That sounds kind of esoteric and encrypted. But really the work for whatever the next step is, you just have to be open and see it. When I'm walking down the street, if I see a cool design in the subway, I take a picture of it and I make a reference of it. If I see some cool font or a cool design, or like when I made those placards, for a year, I was going to MoMA, going to various galleries and taking pictures of placards in art galleries, wherever, for years. And then when I finally sat down, I was like, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one. I'm using the best techniques. And so the thing that I learned to do was just to like train your eye. And so if you train your eye to understand what aesthetic is and what looks good and what looks bad, you really should do that. Like, the camera part is just a technical thing, but if you know in your heart and in your intuition, like, that's a good shot, that's a bad shot. You will know what to do next in your step as you work on the next level of whatever it is you're trying to do. But you could totally, some people just stick at the photography level, but maybe I have ADHD or something like that. I'm always like, you know what? I need to make some buttons. I need to make some stickers. I need to make a collage. I need to grow a plant. I need to do this. That's just who I've been my entire life. And, you know, pray for the people that love me, because it's heavy.
Yes, absolutely.
I was wondering what you're working on now.
What I'm working on now is a lot of interviews. And lately it has been, professionally, been doing a ton of creative producing. But behind the scenes, after interviewing so many different people, I realized like not everything is meant to be published. So I've been doing these like behind the scenes interviews, which I call legacy calls. See, Delilah, she humbles me. So like there's people who may not make it, so like I've been interviewing people on their deathbed. I've interviewed quite a few people for families. Like I had a friend call me and she said, my father's 96, he's not doing well. Can you record a conversation and get his story? And so I do that. I do a lot of behind the scenes where I've utilized my ability to have a conversation for other people, because it's kind of hard for them, but some people are like, oh yeah, I listen to my grandfather's voicemails. But now imagine having a whole conversation where like I'm sharing and then they're oversharing, and I'm not saying like, hey, tell me a story before you die. I'm like, tell me your New York story. And then we'll go from there. And then I'm capturing, so like one of my childhood friends, he wasn't doing well. And so we had like this whole phone call, but he had a good day. And so when he passed away, I edited it the same way that I would do a podcast, and then I gave it to his son. So I'm doing a lot of stuff like that, mostly just capturing more stories specifically for people and giving back. So like what I'm looking to do now is find myself in classrooms and teach and give back. All this is good to like, because I really abridged a lot of this. So being able to like tell these students and figure out how to unlock to say, oh, if you did this, you probably would get a better result. Because that's what happened to me. Like I had real professors who were like, I'm like, I don't understand web design. They're like, bro, it's just squares. Look, it's a rectangle. It's a long square. And when he did that, I was like, oh my God. And then I just expanded on that. So to be able to give back all these things that I've learned over the years to someone who, you know, to students, it would be a good look if anybody knows somebody in the school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.